ladies, welcome to the third issue of Kitchen Counter Conversations, and this is all things Empress Market. I thought it'd be really nice to speak to both of you about how we connect to the sort of history of Karachi and how we engage with it. I'll introduce both of you. You're very, very close to my heart, and I think mainly because you both are related to me. We have Samirah Siddiqui, who is my sister and has been heavily involved in the Empress Market development from the startup days.
Thank you for having us here. It's good to be able to finally get our thoughts together and get this conversation down, and also for that lovely introduction. I'm Samirah. I'm currently working as managing editor for an organization called Project Myopia, which is about decolonizing the education. And I also work freelance on environmental and conservation projects. And my last area of research was in Karachi on the coast, a little bit of Balochistan as well, but I was looking specifically at human population pressure on marine biodiversity.
And then with Rida, to introduce you, you are my late Taya's daughter, who you're practically a sister.
So I am a cultural heritage professional. I know that sounds very, very vague, but if I become a bit more specific, then nobody really understands what I do. So this is normally what I call myself. So I work I got trained in Turkey in archaeology and heritage management, and I've been practicing in the field for nearly 5 years now. Mostly in Pakistan. Now I live here in Austria, in Vienna. So working here as well on different aspects of heritage management, heritage impact assessment.
I really liked kind of connecting all three of us because at the moment, Zoom is the only way we can connect. I'm living here in London, Samirah's in Berlin, and you just mentioned you're in Vienna. And we're all away from, we don't live in Pakistan anymore. And we now have this imagined idea of what Pakistan is.
I think the first time I properly started living outside Pakistan was when I went for my master's to Turkey around 6 years ago. I realized the first time that I ever cooked something Pakistani was when I left Pakistan. And I realized when I first moved there, I thought, Turkish food is so nice, and the donors and kebabs and all of these things. So I live on those, nice, healthy also. My parents were visiting me a month later. And my mom called me and she's like, what do you want? I said, can you get me haldi, lal mirch, ginger garlic paste and kalonji and all? And she's like, what are you talking? What? She's like, what's gotten into you? I said, no, I mean, I need Pakistani food. And can you make a book, like a recipe book? And can you write down all my favorite recipes in it? And she was very, very confused and lost as to what I was saying. But anyway, she did, and she brought all of that, and I still use it. So I think a huge, huge way in which I stay connected with my roots is through food. I have, even in the last 1 year, I think in the time of the pandemic, I have made, both my husband and I, he's also away from his family. We've made things that in Pakistan, we grew up sort of eating, and they're very, 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 very nostalgic. And I find myself making them now. And I never thought I would, but I feel like that's one way of that's my strongest link to Pakistan, and it's something that I think I will continue to maintain over time.
Yeah, I relate to that so much, Rida. I had a very similar experience in Berlin. I think the first week I had moved here, and after all that European colonization, I still can't find the right spices in the Rewe and the German supermarket. So like it does make such a difference when you're not able to find these really basic ingredients. They're not considered basic or kind of storeroom staples anymore, just because you're in another country. I looked up the all of the desi shops near me, and I think all it took for me was to go to one of those shops and speak to somebody in Urdu and have that back and forth. And I started feeling a little bit better and a bit more situated. And even bringing home all of those ingredients and stocking them up in my kitchen, it was a way of being grounded in the place. Like, okay, I live here. This is my house. It's got all of the things I recognize here. So I went to my nearest desi food shop, and I was looking in the freezer for the frozen rotis, and I just asked the guy. I was like, oh, inme se kaun si achhi hai? And he was like, mujhe nahi pata, maine to ye kabhi nahi khayi. And he was like, main to khud banata hu. And I was like, I felt a bit like shamed. I was like, shit, mujhe bhi khud banani chahiye. And like he said, मैं खुद बनाता हूँ, not like मेरी बीवी बनाती है या कोई और मेरे लिए बनाता है. And then I was like, damn, this is actually a life skill. Making roti, the art of making roti is a life skill. So that's what made me kind of be like, yeah, like I'm not, I want to try and overcome this, feminist resistance that we've had towards being in the kitchen. And now the power dynamic has changed because I'm in my own kitchen. I'm not in my mother's kitchen or my nanny's kitchen. And they're trying to teach me how to make food so I can keep my future husband happy. I was making it for myself. And that made that whole process of learning how to make the roti so much more different than when I've tried to do that before. Like there's just been this resistance, like a goat digging in its heels, like I don't want to learn how to do this. But I got pretty okay at it. Like I still wouldn't serve those rotis to my nanny. I'd be too ashamed. But we're getting there.
Karachi, up until partition was a very small city. It was not a very big city. There were not a lot of people that lived there. It really, really grew in population after the partition because there was a huge migration of people from Delhi that came to the city, and also from other parts of what is now India. And I think how they settled in the city in the way that, these were all new sort of areas, newly populated colonies. That is how the food also sort of is, the food culture also established itself that way. So the area, for example, when I'm talking about Dhoraji, is the area where a lot of Memons and people, also Gujaratis, but though there's some Gujaratis in Sadr as well. That is where they settled when they came. Somehow that has stuck in the way that the family homes of all these people are still there, even if they have moved to other parts of the city, which is why as you go through the streets you will still find that same kind of food. And I find it really, really amazing how when I would go through those streets when I was like 6, and now when I go through them when I'm 30 plus, the kind of food that's sold there is still exactly the same. Then there's all these you can say new immigrants that are also coming in from outside the city. A lot of people actually come in from Punjab, Saraiki speaking, also Punjabi speaking, and then they all somehow everybody just sort of clings on to their food heritage. So I think in that way, it's just the way the history of the city has played out has actually played a very important role in how the food has also been really preserved. So when I think of the city, when I think of Karachi, I really think of it as, divided sort of by food. There's this whole section close to Liaqatabad where there's all these, Hafiz Sheermal House and all of these. So when I think of that area, and I remember it because our puppy used to live there. So whenever we would be going to our place or going back from it, we would pick up Sheermal from there.
do you feel in terms of, I mean, I think certainly we like our nani, for instance, is in London, and so our recipes and our oral traditions were almost like built into cement, and they weren't supposed to change. But in the city itself, you're saying like those sort of ideas and food cultures didn't change in those parts of town as well. Do you think that was more of an effort of people, or was it something that was encouraged by, you know, local writing and arts movements and stuff? Like, how is that sort of eternalizing of that food culture stayed?
Things have changed, of course, over time. Things can't remain the same and stagnant forever. But in terms of flavor profiles, in terms of how food is prepared, a lot of those things are, I think they remain the same because of exactly what you just said, right? Like when I think about the aloo keema recipe that my mom has given, I do not want to change anything. And I get very upset if my husband, for example, tries to experiment with the recipe. I'm like, no, don't. This is how it's supposed to be. I think it's really food, travels from generations down to generations, and recipes travel that way. And I think things maybe change a bit over time, but overall, in terms of their flavor profiles, the kind of the food, the identity, and the really sort of special features of our food and the different kinds of food that are there in Karachi also is so strong that it's I don't think it's going to break anytime soon. But it's also important to be mindful of the fact that all different kinds of food represent different groups of people that make up Karachi. And it's important to maintain that integrity if you want to value it as an important part of our culture, which it really, really is.
So in 2018, that's when I went to Karachi for my fieldwork. And we surveyed several different sites along the coast. The first site was Sandspit. So it's very close to Karachi. I think it's like the closest like beachy touristy spot that you can get to. It's also very close to a few coal power plants and nuclear power plant. So I remember diving in that water, and it was like I could only see about like half a meter in front of me. There was I'm pretty sure there was like some sewage not that far away. And I remember like that was the first day of my field work there. And I remember coming out of the water and being like, oh my God, what have I signed up for? I'm swimming in this like polluted, like nuclear sewage, coal power plant, everything all at once. And every day we were surveying another site which was further away from Karachi, and every day the diving got better and better. The marine biodiversity got better and better. The underwater landscapes became better and better. So my lesson from that, and what my whole research showed at the end, is how resilient the marine life is. So our final site was Charna Island, which is one of the few places that you can go scuba diving near Karachi. It's absolutely stunning. Like, I'm just getting excited just talking about it now. And this is a site which is only 2 hours away from Karachi by boat, and it's it's so biodiverse. There's so many different kinds of species and coral that is living there. So there's just a lot of density of life in that area. And there's some limitations around fishing there as well. And way that Pakistan's like continental shelf, the way that the floor of the ocean is, it's quite shallow for several hundred meters, and then there's a steep drop. And the ocean floor plunges into thousands of meters, and that is where you will get all of the larger shoals of fish, the really like the big shoals which are going on, also like the ocean predators like the tuna, the fish, the sharks, which are predating on the tuna and the larger shoals. So that's where the best and biggest catches are coming from. But now, yeah, they're being local fisher communities are being outcompeted by these bigger fishing fleets, which have all of these industrial catching equipment. So that's quite a big issue. A few years ago, like shortly after I did my field work, there was a small oil spill on the coast of Karachi. And when local organizations started researching it and trying to figure out what the source of the oil spill was, diving in Karachi got banned completely. Yeah, it was just completely banned for recreational purposes, for research, for everything.
Wow.
And this was also at the time when there was a lot of development going on the coast, especially with a new, there's certain like energy companies involved, and the official line was that there was a spill from a ship that was approaching the coast. But local fisherfolk communities and people who were researching had slightly different versions, and then there was just a full ban on diving. So in my research, I managed to get a bit of a snapshot of what the biodiversity was like at that time, but who's to know? Like I'm not sure if that's being assessed still, or being assessed in a similar way where we can get a subtidal record.
I think certainly for us Punjabi Lahori girls, me and Samirah, we weren't brought up Punjabi. We're very much like the outsiders who are plonked into Lahore. But going to a city like Karachi, we were always quite fascinated, and like there's such plurality to the cultures that are explored there.
So my main food memory from Karachi is actually koi zarurat nahi hai, ghar mein khana bana hua hai. Because yeah, like when we would be visiting, that would be a time when like our parents were going and seeing all of the relatives. So we would just be going from rishtedar to rishtedar, from relative to relative. And so my memories there are of like a lot of like tea times and kebabs and chaats and things that people would be serving at their house. And yeah, I think there was one time we were kind of like, oh, we never get to do anything that fun in Karachi. We're always going from house to house. So then like our parents took us crabbing, which was like a popular touristy activity in Karachi. My memories of this all are quite hazy, but we were on a boat surrounded by container ships, like these huge ships around us. And they had crabs. It didn't look like they just caught them. They were on the boat already. And it was delicious. Like they like cooked them right there on the boat. And there was like naans and kebabs. And also it was a tourist experience. And the next day I had a full body allergic reaction. And like my face was swelling up. I was covered in hives. I looked hilarious, but also like I was dying. Yeah, your dad made so much fun of me. Yeah,
I remember that.
It was well deserved at that time, and nobody else had the reaction. It was just me, and my like lips were swollen, my neck, everything.
When I hear this story, and I also hear about your experience scuba diving in the area, and I was like, how much was that actually an allergic reaction to crabs, and how much was that actually a response to the pollution in the really heightened industrial area that is the Sindh coastline?
Yeah, so after that happened, I didn't eat shellfish for a very, very, very long time, as you'd imagine. But I did eventually start eating crab and trying it again. And I wasn't allergic after all. It was for sure like something in the water. Although who's to know, because nobody else had that reaction either. And I like street food has such a unfair reputation about being like unhygienic or bad for you and things, and I don't want to feed into that. Like I was the only victim of this this crime. Everybody else was fine. Everyone else had a great time.
My last trip with Samirah was in 2019 when we were exploring the city, and I think for me it was more because I was running my business and I wanted to learn more about the cuisine and the heritage. We took more of an initiative, and I almost like Google bookmarked all the restaurants.
Going to Karachi as an adult is a completely different experience, because now we can put our foot down and say we don't need to see that rishtedar. We're going to get biryani or nahari instead. And going back, especially with you, Numra, when you had crowdsourced all of this information, like it was your followers on your social media which had told you, there were people fighting in the comments over which place has the best nahari, and we were really lucky then to like be able to actually go to all of those different spots while we were there. And I feel like if we hadn't have put our foot down, it would have turned into that very family-oriented trip. I started off saying like, with eating out in Pakistan, like one of the biggest memories is like, koi zarurat nahi hai, khana ghar pe bana hua hai. And I actually really appreciate that, because when we did go out, it would be so special. It would be such a big deal, because it would be like our last night before we were going back to Lahore or something like that. And so those moments of just going to a restaurant became more sacred and important because of the fact that we weren't going all the time.
The biggest thing that I would say was a bit of an adjustment for me after moving away from Karachi was, whenever you'd go to eat outside, it was just a given ke khane ke saath you eat, you drink pakola. That was just a given. I mean, you didn't have like Coke or whatever other things. I didn't even know aur kya cheezein hoti thi. So I think the biggest adjustment for me was, when you go out in Lahore or Islamabad somewhere, you go out to eat and you don't get pakola. We used to live in North Nazimabad, and there was this market nearby called Hedri. And our moms, everybody had their tailor. There's this one master saab that was there. He was everybody's tailor. I remember every time we would go to that tailor, there was this like golgappa chaat ki dukaan in the corner, and we would have golgappe from there. And then there would also be a golgappe wala at Teen Talwar in Gulf. In Clifton. So we would, I just vividly remember just standing on the side of the road and just eating golgappas nonstop.
Yeah, I'm going to wrap up the conversation there, guys. Honestly, it has made me so homesick. And thank you so much for being a part of it.
Thank you. Thanks so much for speaking with us. This has been really lovely.
This was wonderful, and now we need to plan a trip to Karachi somehow when this pandemic is over together. Oh my God. And then we'll just avoid all the relatives.